Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Manoucheri, the Chairman and CEO of Univere Holdings, having one of a series of podcasts that we're going to be launching. Today, my guest is a dear friend and one of the industry legends in the world, Mr. Isadore Sharp, the Chairman, founder of the Four Seasons Hotels worldwide. For those of you who may not be familiar or as familiar with Four Seasons, I think everyone is. It's a worldwide brand. The company has been in existence for well over 50 years. Mr. Sharp started the company in the 1960s as he forayed from a career of being a builder with his father, and began from building a motel for a friend, a 14 or a 16 room motel, and later on he expanded the idea to building his first hotel in Toronto, and that became a smashing success. I think it was about 125 rooms, and then the second one that they opened up was also, I believe, in Toronto, and then the third one launched in London. To this day, the Park Lane Four Seasons Hotel is one of the iconic properties, or the most iconic properties in the city of London, and the brand has expanded itself to nearly just around 100 hotels worldwide, with concentrations all over North America, East and Western Europe, Russia, the Middle East, Bora Bora, and China, the Far East, and many countries. And also they have a Four Seasons legendary residences brand. That's probably one of the most pricey, high-end residences ever built in the world, and that brand continues to prosper. And me personally, a very, very big fan of the hotel. I make it a point to stay at Mr. Sharp's hotels worldwide whenever I can. And the legendary service and the impeccable surroundings and the magnificent properties are a consistent theme throughout our travels. And as an operator of a multi-residential company, what I can tell is since getting to know Izzy for the last few years and staying in the hotels, I've tried to implement their training philosophy, the customer service credentials, and all the wonderful things that they do into our company. And I can tell you, it is not easy. So I wanted to start that, with that. Good morning, Izzy. I hope all's well with you. It's wonderful to see you. And Mr. Sharp, thank God, has just celebrated his 90th birthday. Wish you a great mazel tov until 120. Yeah. So, and as you see, he looks just fantastic. So he's joining us today from Palm Springs. Am I correct? We're in Palm Springs today. As you split your time between, I guess, the world, Toronto, which is your primary home, and also Palm Springs, which is your, I believe, one of your secondary homes. And first question is, Izzy, how did you manage to do it so well? So many languages, so many cultures, so many people, so many countries around the world, and you maintained that standard no matter where it was, whether it's in Cairo, Egypt, or whether it's in Surfside, Miami. What's the secret sauce?
Well, there's no secret. It's, as you can understand, when I started thinking about building a hotel, I wasn't thinking of going into the hotel business. My background, I'm a builder, construction, development. That's really what I grew up on. And building a motel for a friend was just another business deal. Didn't think about it. But as I experienced with that little motel, and the success it had out of the gate was a bit of a revelation. So I thought if he could make this little, well, it ended up as a 28-room hotel, a success in the middle of nowhere. It was on a limited access highway to get to this little motel. You had to wind your way through a residential area. And it struck me that if people are inclined to seek out some place to sleep that looked, appealing, that I decided I would try to do the same thing, but not out in the wilderness, but downtown. So that started a journey that took me 5 years.
Uh-huh.
But it's quite interesting when you're young and you're trying to make a living and doing things. When the spark of an idea doesn't go out, it allows you to persevere with what your belief is. So that little motel, which became a success for the owner, Jack Gould, and his wife, gave me the insight that over that. Now, remember, when I say it took me 5 years, I'm still struggling to make a living. I'm married, and that's just the beginning of my marriage, actually, when I started. But over those knocking on doors, trying to convince people that this is an idea that might work, knowing I had no experience and
So
understanding.
that means your first hotel was like a syndication, like friends and family, you brought them in to do your first transaction?
Well, luckily I had, somebody who I knew and had worked with from my building houses, the manager of the insurance company that lent me money, Cease Forsyth. So I would knock on his doors, and over the years I would come with new ideas, and he would, sort of be patient with me, told me why it wouldn't work. And eventually he sort of broke down and said, look, leave me alone. If you can get 50% of the money, I'll lend you 50% of what the deal will be. Well, being in the construction industry, I then begged and asked my tradespeople, will they trust me to wait for a portion of their payments until the hotel opens? So I cobbled together enough money. You talk of leverage. This was 98% leveraged.
Right.
Of equity.
How much equity was the first, how much equity do you have to raise for the first venture?
Well, I don't recall now, but I think I raised from my partners, my brother-in-law and his best friend, Murray Koffler, Eddie Creed, each of us put in $90,000.
Wow.
And the balance was all borrowed money. But luckily, the hotel got off to a good start. It was a success. And I could pay back all the trades that trusted me.
Right.
And it worked. So, but that still didn't stimulate me to go into the hotel business. This to me was another real estate deal. I thought it's good enough, I'll probably sell it.
Right.
But it led me also to think of doing it again. And that became the second hotel, which was called the Inn on the Park.
That's right. Toronto, right?
In Toronto. And my idea there was to create a resort, but almost within the city. So this was on the outskirts of Toronto at that time.
And not the best neighborhood, right?
Pardon?
It wasn't the best neighborhood, was it? The second hotel?
The second hotel was in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
Because it was surrounded by parks, the garbage dump on one side of the street, the railroad track on the north side of the development. But I thought that here we could create, because we had 16 acres of land, and the architect designed a brilliant building, because my direction to him was, you have to do something that is so dramatic, people are going to want to drive just to see what you've designed.
Wow.
And he did, Peter Dickinson.
Yeah.
And luckily that became a smashing success. So it sort of was good enough to think of doing another.
So you had a pool, I think you had a gym, which was a novel idea at the time. And there was also sort of like a discotheque, nightclub, restaurant.
Yeah.
Do I remember correctly? Right.
Yeah, no, we at that time, I didn't know anything about the hotel business. So my ideas of what to build and how to operate really were thinking of it from a customer's perspective. what would you as a customer consider to be important and of value to you traveling away from house and office? So the ideas that I incorporated right back from the very first hotel weren't blockbuster ideas. They were just common sense. You would probably think of the same ideas when you're thinking of it, well, what would a customer want? So those many innovations that we've come up with
Mhm.
over the years were simply ideas that to me made good sense. And maybe because I wasn't didn't have any knowledge of the hotel industry, these ideas from a person who knows the industry were often left field. They thought I was crazy. He said, you're never going to get a return on what it's going to cost you to incorporate these things.
Right.
But like most things, people do pay for what they consider to be of value to them.
And I have to say, if I may add, today I know you've maintained this even during recessions or downtimes, especially now after the pandemic and the war that's going on right now between Ukraine and Russia. A very, very unfortunate, sad situation. But too many cycles, I don't think staying in hotels, I've ever seen your rates cut, and you generally 25 to 40% higher than the hotel next door, even if it's a 5-star flat. And that's really, how do you do that? How do you make the customer pay more? And there's, by the way, there's no loyalty programs, there's no points, unlike Marriott or some of the other chains where you can come and stay for free. You always got to pay.
Well, I think it's basic to business common sense. We were the first company to break, if you talk average room rate,
Right.
$100, $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, and now we're getting average room rates of over $2,000.
That's just for a regular room.
Yeah, for one room.
Mhm.
But people pay for what they believe is value to them. And if your marketing and the concepts of what you're advertising
Mhm.
meet the customer's expectations of what they've heard and what they expect, price is never a negative. Look, if you're marketing something that you're holding out to be the best, now that's not necessarily the way we could start, but
Right.
that's what we have become. Well, if you are the best, clearly you pay more for what you consider to be the best, which is the same understanding of anything, whether you're buying a house, whether you're shopping in a store or elsewise. That's my phone, but I think my wife will answer it. Okay. So price has never been a negative,
Right.
providing you deliver on the promise of what you've told the customer to expect. So those experiences
Exactly.
people have come to expect and become memorable have allowed us to build a reputation of delivering on that promise.
So basically, the central theme is you create a memorable experience where people want to come back to over and over again, whether it's in that location or somewhere else.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And that is really, you know, any hotel company
Mhm.
can build the same kind of building, furnish it, decorate it. It's never about the building. It's always about what the employees, what they can do to make the customer's experience special. And that has been the benchmark of Four Seasons. The brand is built on that memorable experience that customers have come to expect. And as long as the employees can deliver on that expectation, and what happens in most cases, they exceed those expectations.
Mhm.
The employees go
Well,
beyond what is ever asked of them to do things that, if you give people the initiative to participate in their role and what they're doing, they rise to the occasion and they want to prove to you, hey, I can do this. It's human nature. I mean, do you know anybody who doesn't want to succeed? So our role in terms of building the company has to develop a employee powerhouse, to rely upon them to deliver on what the company is holding out as expected.
how do you maintain that training standard around the world? As I mentioned earlier, different languages, different cultures, different customs. I mean, that's not easy, is it?
No, when I reconstruct the history of Four Seasons, I can identify there are four key strategic decisions that have really underlined and become the rock solid foundation of the company. And those are based on quality, service, culture, and brand. Now, the most important part of that, like the first decision of Quad, we decided we'd only operate medium-sized hotels of exceptional quality, and we're going to try to be the best. Well, to be the best, how would you accomplish that? And I knew then that it's not going to be through the architecture or decor. I decided that we would make the quality of our service our competitive advantage. Well, to do that, you're going to have to rely upon every employee in the company to rise to that occasion. So that's when I prepared a mission statement that to give people an understanding of what we as a company were going to try to achieve. And a big part of that mission statement was based on the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that became the, call us, focus of how we would hire people and expect them to live up to certain principles. So the golden rule has become, call it, the rock solid foundation of the company. And by getting people to give people what they needed, meaning our employees, we would hope that they would then in turn give the customer what they need. So the company's success has been based upon hiring the right people, having those people believe that their role in the company was meaningful. And over the years, we've created an army of people who are able to respond to the company's needs in a way that is fail-safe. And we've been able to do this worldwide because of that simple principle. Because it's not what we say, it's what we do. And by giving the employees an understanding and treating them with the respect that they're entitled to, they in turn respond in kind. So this is the golden rule. I asked my wife, Rosalie, years back, I said, where did this come from? Who were the scribes? And we take it for granted. We use, we hear about it. So she did some research and came up with 10 of the religious beliefs, whether it's Christian, Muslim, that in their religion, in their scribed the principles of the golden rule. So the 10 religions all embody the principles. So people around the world have been indoctrinated with this concept. It's the way you bring up your children.
Correct.
So for us to attract people of similar work ethic and principles was giving us a workforce that believed in what we were doing, And that has become what I referred to before as the bedrock of Four Seasons Foundation.
Speaking of your workforce, I have talked and met with many of your staff members in your hotels all over the place. And I know your assistant, Nan, who we're very fond of in this office, has been with you for 45 years. And I know some of your top executives, many of them actually, many of your simple hotel employees down to the janitor or the front desk or people who run the gym, for example. I've talked to many of them. They've been there 19 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. How do you hold on to talent like this, especially in this day and age today where people are quitting in bigger numbers than ever before, where people don't want to work, and yet these people show up year after year and they do it better and better? What is the secret sauce there?
Well, I think it's what I said. I think it's because people have found a work environment that they're comfortable with. They look forward to coming to work every day because they really do believe, and it's a fact, that their role is contributing to the company's success. And early on, I established a mandate that we would promote from within, give every person who's in the company an opportunity. It's a merit. It's all based on merit. So it's not a question of how long you've worked there. It's a question of have you earned the rights for your next promotion. So over the years, people have found a career that suits them. And, we've had people who might start as a temporary bar waiter and today is a general manager. And my wife in her recent book has said that, it's taken as long to become a general manager in Four Seasons as to become a brain surgeon. But the belief that if they do their work and they are willing to take on more responsibility, then there's that promotion up the ladder has given us the bench strength of people.
What percentage of your time do you spend now with the company? Because I know you're sort of like a semi-retired, but you still have a significant importance for the brand. And,
well, no, my time is not really spent at the business at this time. I still do some of the things that I've always done. I'll be traveling to Napa on Thursday to visit with the hotel. So my time is usually now devoted to traveling to hotels, dealing as a chairman with the board as needed be. But I'm not involved in the day-to-day business. That clearly is in the hands of the CEO. So my role is, once you give up the position of the CEO, you really do have to step back because they have to be center stage. So my role has been more of a statesman, carrying the message. Still retain close relationships with all the sort of partners that I've met with over the years. So it's a role that as a founder, I can still speak from a pulpit that others can't.
And I believe 95% of the company is owned by Prince Al-Walid and Mr. Gates. Am I correct still?
Well, just recently, Bill Gates has purchased another 25%. So he is the major controlling interest.
Yeah. And you still maintain a 5% interest or so?
Yes. So I'm still a 5% owner and participate with my partners as need be. So I'm available to do what is asked of me. But clearly the day-to-day is handled by a very competent group of senior executives. And that's, it's a necessary step. So having control of the company has allowed me to put myself in a position that I wanted to be in as long as I want.
Fantastic. This is one of the books that I got from my recent stays in Miami, the Surf Club, which is one of my favorite hotels worldwide. And there must be at least 100 hotels at this time. worldwide? I mean,
There's 130 hotels that were presently operating.
130 hotels. Wow. And then there's how many in the stage of the opening? Another 20 or 30 or more?
There are more than 50 hotels that are under development in one stage or another. And we're also presently operating 48 residences that are either connected to the hotel or standalone. And of the development pipeline, that there's 70% of those hotels also have a residential component. So the growth of the company has been very much centered on what we do best. So the extension of the residential is not a diversification,
Right.
but a complement. So it's based upon what the people who buy those condominiums or rent them believe in the quality and the service that they will get as a result of that ownership.
From a small survey I took from pricing your residential towers across the US at least, I don't think I saw anything for less than $3,000 a square foot. In fact, the one that's under construction in Miami next to the surf club, which will be up in 2 years, I said a number of times that, okay, maybe we should really buy a place here. And I called and they said, sorry, it's sold out.
Yeah.
In the middle of a pandemic, an answer to the economy, it's sold out. And that pricing probably right now is about $5,000 or $6,000 a square foot, or maybe even higher. Am I right?
Yes, yeah. But people, well, you're a professional real estate developer, so you understand real estate more than anybody. And when you buy something that has got an address, if you're buying a house in the best part of town,
Right.
you're going to pay more for that house per square foot than you would in another part of town. So if you're buying say a condominium in a Four Seasons as part of a Four Seasons hotel,
or a home like in Orlando,
that address, right? That address is always going to be in the right part of town. So the value of that real estate will continue to increase over time. So it's based upon, I was one of the first ones to build a apartment for sale in Canada.
yes.
And at that time, we had to do it as a cooperative because there wasn't a condominium act.
That was in the 60s, correct?
And when people ask me, well, why would people buy an apartment when it's much cheaper to rent? It doesn't make good sense. So I explain that it's innate in us, in all people, to own a home. It's just part of our psyche. So the idea of people buying an apartment, to me, made good sense. And I built, I think it was 4 or 5, until the government changed the act and created the Condominium Act in Canada.
Right.
Today, condominiums are, flourishing everywhere.
Right.
So the ownership is innate to human nature.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So we touched upon many of the facets of your business, of your global creation or empire, and it's a pretty amazing feat of what you've accomplished. How did you manage to run the chain during the pandemic or at the height of it throughout 2020? Because I know in some localities there was very, very severe lockdowns, like in Canada, New Zealand, and even here in the US and California, not so much maybe in Florida and some of the other markets. And coupled with that, how did that affect your occupancies? Where was it 2 years ago? Where are you at now, making up for lost time? And how did these hotels manage to service their debt? Because some were probably completely shut down. I know Santa Barbara one has been shut down for some time now, going on the renovations. The same with the Upper East Side Manhattan Hotel. Same with that, and now we have a new crisis in Europe, with the war. And I know you have hotels throughout Eastern Europe and other parts of the world. So how did you manage to run it in such a unforeseen time?
Well, like most businesses, you have to be prepared for these cycles in the economy, and some are worse than others. So we've gone through many economic recessions. Go back to 1980, 81, when interest rates, skyrocketed to 22%. Then there was the SARS pandemic, that was,
And
it almost became a pandemic. 9/11 crisis, who knew what was going to happen in terms of terrorist acts around the world? And then, of course, just recently, the 2008 financial crisis. So this pandemic has been worse than anything we have faced before,
wow.
because it was worldwide and changed our lives. It wasn't just an economic problem, it was a problem of health and survival. So it was a different thing to deal with, but we dealt with it in principle the same way. And because of the pandemic and running the hotels, we had to be concerned with people's safety and health.
Mm-hmm.
So our president of hotel operations, Christian Cleric, came up with a concept of hiring the Johns Hopkins Hospital to give us instructions. How should we be managing these hotels? What are the precautions we should be taking? And they put together a program that is called Lead with Care, that every hotel would comply with these very strict rules of how to deal with employees and then customers. So it was we all suffered for it. We all lost business for it. Many hotels were closed for a long time. Happily, we are now almost open in all hotels, and we're starting to function again. And you say the war, Putin's war in Ukraine is another hit.
Not affecting the Moscow hotel, St. Petersburg?
Yeah, it's going to affect our hotel in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and also we have another residence that's just going to be opening. But it also affects our business worldwide, because the Russian population are, great users of Four Seasons hotels.
Yes.
So it's a hit. But like you run your business, you have to be prepared for the downtimes in a way that you will be able to come back without having to compromise your business. So when we first ran into these recessions way back in the mid-70s, I put in place then I call it a policy. And that was to challenge every general manager with an opportunity now. How are you going to run your business? So the mandate was control without compromise. How are you going to control your business without compromising the experience the guest expects? And it's remarkable when you put the challenge out to people and they gather together their people, they come up with the most remarkable ideas.
Very inspiring. Wow.
Well, we've done that every time we've run into a problem, as we have done this time.
But this time you've had two unprecedented black swan events, the pandemic,
Yes.
and now the first one in Europe in 75 years. I mean, come on. What's going to come up next? Is it going to be China invading Taiwan, and that becomes, God forbid, a world war? So
Well,
it's hard to prepare for this, isn't it?
Well, look, we can only control what was in our own power, and therefore we have to deal with the crises as best we can. And I must, I'm so proud of our people that they've been able to rise to the occasion. And what's most important, principles only count when the times are tough. We can all be fair weather friends and everything is great and live up to say we are always going to live up to our standards. Well, when times are tough, that's when it really requires, do you live up to your principles? And that I'm proud to say that throughout the company, when you have these crises, the most difficult problem is you have to terminate many, many people. But it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So our people dealt with that very difficult task with a compassion and understanding of how to help people through that period of time when they no longer have a job. So we've been managing this principle each time in a way that we come through it. You want to make sure you come through without compromising what you set out to do. So I believe when this is passed, and it will, when we're back, what might be the next new normal, we will have come through this without having compromised and can look forward to the future. As a matter of fact, the message that I've been sending out recently is that I believe that Four Seasons is now on the threshold of what will be our greatest era.
Let me ask you a more interesting, intimate question. I know you're a man of faith. I did read your wife's book about your background. I know you're children of immigrants who came here from Poland after the war. And how much has your faith, especially your Jewish faith, helped you weather through so many storms and through so many parts of your life? It's been a tremendous legacy.
Well, I think we are all born with the genes that go back thousands of years. And I believe that part of my success is that, I have a belief in, we have that as a nurture or nature. I believe it's a combination of both, that we're all born with the genes that we inherit from our parents and their forebears, but it's the upbringing. Does that upbringing hone whatever skills you have, or does it suppress them? So I was fortunate growing up in an immigrant household where parents, my first language was Yiddish. So you grow up in an immigrant household that gives you things that you don't normally get when things are all good. So when you have a struggling family life, whatever genes you have, they flourish because my parents, we had the privilege of having a family life that was very supportive. So I guess those genes that I inherited have helped me in withstanding the traumas of life and accepting them. And yes, it has been a Jewish upbringing because Rosie has written in her last book, because my father and his father and generations back are a long line of rabbis.
Wow.
So she believes I inherited and stand on the shoulders of generations of rabbis. So I guess my beliefs have been developed based upon Jewish traditions.
Speaking of Jewish traditions, I know there is only one country, perhaps amongst others, that you don't have a hotel in, and I know you talked about that. Maybe you regret it not having built one there. How come we don't have a Four Seasons in Israel? All places.
We are building a hotel in Tel Aviv.
You are?
It's under development, yes, with Larry Silverstein, who was the developer of World Trade Center. And he was developer of our hotel in New York as well as Orlando. So he has a development that he's been working on for many years because nothing happens quickly in Israel. So I believe he will succeed and we will have a 5-star hotel in Tel Aviv.
You did have one in Tanya back in the 60s, right?
We did.
Yes.
That was
It's still there on the beach. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That was way back in the early 60s. Now we did, and we were struggling to have a hotel in Jerusalem. But politics became unbearable. So for 20 years, we were going through the quagmire of Israeli politics.
I think that just became the Orient, that site that you were after.
Really?
Yeah, near the German colony. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, that site is now the Orient Hotel.
Oh, well,
It's part of the Israel chain in Israel. So,
well, that's good. It's going ahead.
yeah, so finally somebody did it, you know, if I waited 25 years, but, okay, fantastic. Okay, let's get into some of the leadership aspects of how you can be a source of inspiration. I know we have many young people listening here as a wonderful audience throughout the world. What advice do you have for young people who have drive and ambition and they want to replicate a global empire or perhaps their own little imprint on the world? What's your message to young people out there today?
Well, firstly, if they're fortunate enough that they can have an education, spend as long as you can having an education, because that gives you something that will serve your purposes for the rest of your life. So that's number one. And it doesn't matter what your education is. You know, if you've got a profession that you have a belief in, and whether it's, being a doctor or a lawyer, architect, but it doesn't matter what you're learning in school, but you're developing your mind, and that would lead to other things. So my advice is, when you have finished your education, get a job, any job. It doesn't matter what it is. Don't hold out because you've got a fancy degree that you should be entitled. You can knock on many doors and get rejected,
Mm-hmm.
but get started. Get started in something. By coincidence, there's an owner that owns our hotel in Toronto. His name is Shahid Khan. And Rosalie's just written a bit of a blurb in her book about him. He's from Pakistan, came to Canada, came to United States, landed in Chicago when he was 16 years old in a snowstorm that he had never seen snow before. Got a job in washing dishes, went on to university, became a mechanical engineer, got a job in a company, eventually took over and bought that company.
Wow.
He now has become enormously successful, has invented the one-piece bumper, and is now over 30,000 employees in, I think, 27 different countries. He calls it the American dream.
I like
Point. Get a job, and never ever complain about whatever you're doing that you could have done better. Take out of your vocabulary the word if. Oh, if I would have studied, I would have done better. If I would have practiced, I could have run that race faster. That's bullshit. Whatever you're doing, put your all into it. Whatever the job is, know that you did your very best in trying to make that job as whatever your obligations and responsibilities were. And that will take you to the next step in your life, whatever that will be. I didn't start out to be in the hotel business. I never expected, when they said, what was your dream?
Exactly. Did you envision this?
I didn't have a vision that I would be running this type of company. And I didn't have a dream about it. To me, I was just going to do the best I could.
Wow.
And that's really, I think, how most people get ahead.
Speaking of that,
Think about your background. Think
Right.
about how you got to where you are. It's based on the same principles. Put everything you've got into what you're doing. Know you've done your best. And that means you will never fail.
Exactly. So no matter how many times you fall, you have to get right back up again.
Yeah.
And then go for the next opportunity. Tell me, what are some of the best decisions you made, and perhaps a couple of mistakes that you learned from that you feel free to share with the audience?
Well, I know the very best decision I made was by a chance event. I happened to meet my wife.
I was gonna say it's gotta be your wife, right?
Yeah, because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that my success is directly related to having married Rosalie.
You're quoting the Talmud, and all the blessings come from the wife. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Because we all need support. We don't get anywhere on our own. That invisible hand is always there. And I know that, she was always in my corner. Was never, ever negative, has always been there, willing to join me in the risks I was taking. Whatever the outcome would be, she said, okay, we'll deal with it together. So having somebody like that as a partner
Wow.
allows you to reach for the stars. And I know that because she was always there, regardless of what the outcome might be, that's been my rock. So
how many years now? God bless. Is it over 60 years now? You married?
we've been married 66 years.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah. So when you talk of chance events, had I not gone to this wedding of my cousin, and I didn't intend to go, but my mother forced me to go, I would never have met Rosalie because our lives and interests were poles apart. But having gone to the wedding, I noticed this beautiful young bridesmaid. And of course, at that time in my life, I'm going to try to make out. So asked her to dance, got her telephone number, and that was 69 years ago.
How old are you back? Oh, 69, so must have been almost 29, right?
Yeah, I was 21. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing. That was a beautiful story. Okay, great. I mean, wow, this is really, really inspiring. And Rosalie was involved with you in the design of the hotels for many years, right?
Yes, she went on to graduated from Ontario College of University of Ontario College of Art.
Right.
Has become a professional interior designer and was designed many of our hotels. So we've been partners in many ways.
And what is the toughest decision you ever had to make? I know it's a loaded question, but.
Well, I think the most difficult time was when I wanted to create some liquidity for my family, and I wanted to sell some shares of the company. This is going back in 1994, I guess. And I found out that I can't do that because if the founder and controlling interest of a public company sells, it's going to create havoc. So I decided at that time that maybe I'm going to have to make a crucial decision, which was I then decided maybe I'll sell the company, or my preference, I'll sell 25%. So that year of 1994.
That's when you brought in Goldman Sachs?
Yeah, Goldman Sachs became my advisor.
Uh-huh.
And we set out on the road and spoke to a lot of companies. And fortunately, two companies were prepared to buy just 25%. So I made a deal with Prince Walid to buy 25% of the company, which solved my liquidity problems, left me in control of the company. And from that time forward, everything has worked out as well as could be planned.
I am sure the Prince is very pleased with his investment at this many times over.
So Prince Walid, we're very good friends, and he uses the word, our relationship has been more than a partnership, it's been an alliance. So it's worked out very well.
Fantastic. Well, we're getting towards the last few minutes of our presentation here, and it's been absolutely amazing. And a couple last questions, and I'll leave you making a message for the audience here. How did you manage to keep your family together? I'm married for 66 years now, correct? With this extensive travel schedule, with all the amount of stress you had over the years, all this building going on globally, different crises here and there. How did you keep it all together and still manage to travel and stay married?
Well, I go right back because Rosalie picked up the pieces, and you talk, and I do have regrets of not spending the time I should have in raising our family. But when you're young, your priorities are not necessarily as crystal clear as they become when you're older. So I think not having spent the time that maybe I should have when my family was growing up. Now, the kids to this day resent when I say that because they say, look, Dad, you were always there. We never, ever missed you. We always had you whenever we wanted you. But I know, going back, that there were times when Rosalie had to do everything. And that's why I say my success has found its way in many ways, not just for her support in my business, but in making sure the family has grown up together. And today we have the joy of having 6 great-grandchildren, 4 grandchildren, and our phone, Rose just reminded me, 5. Yes, we have our son who is married and has a stepson. So we are fortunate that we've helped each other get through the trauma of losing a child.
Wow.
Knowing we had to be supportive of one another so our 3 children would have that support. So all in all, it's been a marriage of love and success.
And as a last question, before we depart, it's so hard. I just want to continue going and going. This is really wonderful. I'm just really enjoying myself. What do you do now? What is it that motivates you? And what is the legacy that you want to leave behind for many generations to come?
Well, naturally, I'm proud of the company and the direction it's taking. I think now under the ownership of Bill Gates and his company, the legacy of 4 Seasons is in good hands. And I believe the company will continue to grow based upon the values that it has already established. So in terms of a legacy of a company, I think I can rest easy, knowing also that our employees around the world are 45,000 plus.
45,000 plus, wow.
All have a better life because of the success of the company and the work environment that they were, comfortable in working. So that leaves me pretty happy in terms of where we are in our lives right now, that knowing that we've done our job and it's in good hands.
Fantastic. Okay, God should bless you and your wife Rosalie with 120 years of healthy and wonderful living, as we say, ad mave stream. And again, I recommend to the audience, this is a fantastic book. I picked this up actually, Izzy, in Prague, when we took our 3rd daughter on her bat mitzvah trip to Europe to see some of the camps in Auschwitz, etc. We stopped by in Prague, and I spent a couple of nights there by the Charles River. I read this. That's when I got to really admire and adore your company. And I passed this book to all of our employees, all the 130 plus who read this, and we continue to make this, our mantra of quality service. We can grab this. I have your personal signed autograph on this. And I want to thank you also for making me an elite member of your 4 Seasons hotels. Not only that, but also you have the private jet program, right?
Yes.
I haven't done this one yet. It's just for my blood.
There's 3 of those left. They're all sold out for this year, but there's 6 more that will be on the line for next year. But Henry, let me show you something.
Sure.
Appreciate what you're saying about my book, but there's a much better book that you will enjoy reading.
Sure.
The book that my wife Rosalie has just completed, it's just going through the publisher now. And it's a memoir of both our lives and some of the history of Four Seasons. And this is the cover of that book. It's called Me and Izzy, a Four Seasons romance. And if you think my book was good, then this puts on my book to shame. So
Fantastic. So I was going to say, where's the second book? So we found it.
you found it. So this will be published sometime in May. And it's very enjoyable reading because of all of Rosalie's many gifts and of her talents. I believe her greatest gift is her writing skills, which brings the reader right into her train of thought. So I will send you a personal copy.
I was going to ask. Thank you so much. You read my mind. Can we say hi to Rosie? Speaking of Rosie, is that possible?
Rosalie, where are you? Rosalie, come here. No, she's painting. She's busy painting now.
Okay, very nice.
But she's got a website now of all her paintings that her son Greg put together. So it can be seen on her website. All her many paintings that she's done over the 10 years.
Okay, I want to thank you, Izzy, and thank you, Rosalie, on behalf of all of the Universe Holdings employees throughout the US. And I continue to look forward to my next stay with my family at one of your hotels. And we hope that we'll have more opportunities in the future to bring you on board. And as we launch a series of podcasts with world leaders such as yourself, and congratulations, Mazel Tov, on creating such a beautiful life, a life well lived, simply. And when
Thank you, Henry. Nice.
all the best.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.